Hey everyone, and welcome to the Grow Hemp series. Today, we'll be showing you a grow from seed to harvest with a sub-irrigated planter. A sub-irrigated planter is a simple way to automatically water your plants for a long period of time, while also providing pest control benefits. And today we'll be doing a seed to flower grow with a custom one that provides a lot of unique benefits that a lot of sub-irrigated planters overlook. But first, we're going to be starting with a seed in a plant tray filled with soil. The seeds that I'm using for this grow are actually from the previous grow log 24, where I made seeds from the cherry blossom regenerated hemp plant. And since these are normal seeds, that means that this can grow either into a male or female. By starting with a plant tray, this method is similar to starting with a seed starter like a rapid rooter or peat pellet. But by using soil, I don't need to buy any additional tools to start. Although the soil is more messy to work with, and you're not really saving that much since the seed starters aren't that expensive. But by starting with the plant tray, beginning a grow with a very small housing for the seed provides a number of benefits. The small footprint allows for an optimal use of space. As you can see, we're able to compact a bunch of seedlings into a small area. And although we do have to water the seedlings pretty often with the small amount of soil, this also ensures that the seedlings are never overwatered, which is a lot harder to correct than if we were to underwater the plants. The root mass will also be a little denser to start, since it's compact into a small space. And as long as you don't keep the plant in here for so long that the roots start to circle itself and become root bound, then this will build a really healthy root system to start that when transplanted into a larger pot will spread more evenly throughout the new pot. As for the grow space this plant is housed in, I'm starting this grow with a 2x2 by 4 feet grow tent utilizing a quantum board style grow light. There's a clip-on fan on the side of the tent to provide air circulation throughout, as well as another clip-on fan at the top of the tent, which I'm using as an exhaust fan. And I'm doing this instead of a traditional inline fan to start to save on costs. Although once I'm at a point where the plants are in the flowering stage, if I need to scrub the air, I can then switch this with an inline fan and carbon filter setup. Now that the seedlings are starting to outgrow the plant tray, it's time to transplant it into the custom sub-irrigated planter. I've covered how to build this, as well as the benefits of this type of setup in the previous ProTech video. But I'll go over a quick overview of the benefits of the sub-irrigated planter build. We start first with the bottom bucket, and this is used as a water reservoir with a maximum capacity of about 2.5 inches of water before the water will overflow out through the drain hole. I'm using 3 3-inch net cups on the bottom of this bucket to prop up the next bucket, and this second bucket is where the plant will be held. There are a lot of small holes on the bottom of this bucket, and that lets the bottom of the bucket breathe, as well as draining any excess water on the top down into the water reservoir. And then there's a larger hole at the center of the bucket, which is where the water will wake up. And to set this up, I'll first place on a layer of weed block before placing in a net cup. And the weed block is to help stop the roots from growing past this point. Inside of the net cup, I'll place in some coarse perlite to help wick the water up. Then place a PVC pipe on the side of the bucket which I can then use to refill the water reservoir from the bottom up. I'll then place it in a fabric pot that I'll fill with a potting mix. So the way the setup works is that once I fill the bottom water reservoir with water, the perlite will wick the water up to the fabric pot. And I'm using perlite here because since this area will be underwater for pretty much the entire grow, it's better to use an inorganic substrate to help prevent anaerobic and pathogenic bacteria from thriving. Now I just need to transplant in a seedling. Once the plant is in, since the roots are still near the top of the pot, I'll be watering this plant from the top for the first week. And then after that, I'll be watering the plant from the PVC pipe once the roots have been established and have traveled further down the pot. And back in the tent it goes. Since I'm using potting mix with a lot of organic fertilizers built into it, I'm able to just use water on the plant. And now after the first week of watering from the top of the plant, I'll only be watering the plant from the PVC pipe, refilling it once a week until the water comes out of the overflow hole. In total, I'm giving the plants about 2 more weeks in the vegetative stage before flowering it. And for this grow, I won't be utilizing any training techniques on the plant. I've switched the light cycle from an 18 and 6 hours to a 12 and 12 hour light cycle, which will trigger the plant to flower. And the plant is doing a quite aggressive final stretch, forcing me to constantly adjust the camera to match the plant's height. I've also started mixing in a little bit of liquid bloom fertilizer with the water each time I top it off, just so the plant gets a little more phosphorus. Unfortunately, the plant is growing pollen sacs, so it's a male. And while I can still grow it for a couple more days before the pollen sacs start to open, I'll need to remove it from the grow tent by then so that it doesn't affect the other plants in the tent. So let's take a look at how everything went with this sub-irrigated planter build. Quick look at the water reservoir shows that it's pretty clean, other than a little bit of bloom fertilizer that has settled on the bottom of the bucket. And although it looks like some roots made it past the weed block definitely seemed to have helped keep the roots in place. Picking up the fabric pot shows that it worked great at air printing the roots on the sides, and as expected, the area where the water is wicking up is just surrounded by roots. I'm pretty surprised as to how easy the roots are able to grow through a fabric pot if it's not air pruned. I can also feel the damp soil through the fabric pot about 1 to 2 inches up the bottom of the pot, which means that the wicking action is able to go up to about this point before it stops. Removing the fabric pot confirms this. And now you can clearly see where the potting mix is still damp. And in the end, even though I had to remove the plant from the grow space early, this was a great example of how a sub-irrigated planter works. And that's it. Like the content? Then be sure to check out our beginner's guide to creating CBD products from scratch. available at Amazon in print and digital, with links in the description below. You can also find us at hempinapot.com.